to this event run by the Graduate Art History Association. We are a student body that leads lots of different events on campus, mainly lectures where we're ecstatic to bring in new, exciting research like what we're going to be doing today on the wedding of Hannah. And actually, I had the pleasure of driving our guests over today, and I learned that they are the leading scholars on this work of art. Manuel informed me that they know more than they could ever write or even present. So I am just really looking forward to this presentation. Before we can get to it though, I do want to do our time-honored tradition here in the Colaboratory of reading our land acknowledgement of this space. This is just something we do before every event, just to acknowledge the history. So, every community owes its existence and strength to the generations before them around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy into making the history that led to this moment. Some are brought here against their will, some are drawn to migrate from their homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical in building mutual respect and connections across all barriers of heritage and difference. In the Art History and Archaeology department, we believe it is important to create dialogue to honor those that have been historically and systematically disenfranchised. So we acknowledge the truth that is often buried. We are on the ancestral lands of the Piscataway people. We were among the first in the Western Hemisphere. We are on the indigenous lands that was stolen from the Piscataway people by European colonists. We pay respects to Piscataway elders and ancestors, and please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. With that, I'm going to welcome another member of our association who's going to officially introduce the group to us. I welcome Katie forward.
Thanks for the applause, guys. So, Dr. Manuel Lafarga is a professor of music history at the Conservatory of Valencia. His doctoral thesis, entitled Echoes from Greece, Historical Puns of Vocal and Instrumental Polyphony in the Classical World, was devoted to the polyphonic practices of ancient Greeks and Romans. He has taught both music and the history of aesthetics for over 25 years at various higher education institutions across Spain, and has developed more than 50 courses centered on neuroscience, human evolution, and ancient musicology. At present, Dr. Lafarga teaches at the Joaquin Rodrigo Conservatory of Music in Valencia and manages a YouTube channel devoted to his research interests. This channel has more than 150 lectures recorded over the last 12 years and nearly 500 subscribers. His research team has devoted the last 7 years to the Wedding at Cana campus and maintains a website where the recorded lectures and publications are freely available. And please see the events page of the Art History and Archaeology website for a link to that website. Dr. Lafarga will be joined today by Sanz, a PhD candidate in the Art Production and Research program at the Polytechnic University of Valencia. Penelope has a master's in technology and music management and is the co-author of almost all the publications on the Veronese canvas. She has several national and international publications on the topics that she and Dr. Lafarga will discuss today, and nearly 25 years of experience researching music and evolution, neuroscience, and ancient musicology. Penelope also maintains the Wedding at Cana website I mentioned earlier. Her doctoral thesis investigates further musicological and iconographic aspects of the Veronese canvas. Dr. Lafarga and Penelope are also joined by Jorge Camarero Manzanero, a musician and illustrator who digitally reconstructed the Wedding at Cana based on Dr. Lafarga and Penelope's research, and Rosa Cortez Calvo.
Okay, good morning. First time, many thanks to the University of Maryland, College Park, especially to Queen Gregory, Tony Quee, and so Elizabeth Copeland, and also to the audience to pay attention to our work. The possibility to introduce our research from the last 7 years to an expert audience, and especially inside the American academic circles, is a true pleasure for us, especially in Maryland, the land of Mary, who gives the meaning to the Greek Veronese's canvas while asking her son for new wine at the biblical wedding, through her open although empty left hand. The characteristic Veronese maniera is well known. He has been called the Etruscan devil of mannerism by Stefano Zuffi due to his ability for blending, inflecting, and articulating in the same scene both sacred and profane. In this case, perhaps the most notorious, thought the inclusion of a funeral sung mass, a peculiarly Venetian one, in the middle of a profane wedding, and the later, at time, included in the context of a biblical marriage, the first Jesus miracle according to John's Gospel. Our mother looks at this first original vocal ensemble as Giorgione's lost Venetian citizen right, when he died early at Lazaretto. However, the commission of Benedictine monks of San Giorgio Maggiore turned in a very trying enterprise on a very frequented scaffold. Among other transformations, the author was compelled to mutate the nature and arrangement of the central musical ensemble up to 4 times, perhaps 5. As it can be observed from the radiographies of the canvas obtained in 1989. Some of these images were published by Louvre Museum 3 years later, in 1992, by Lola Failan Duma. Oh, just a minute. This is San Giorgio Maggiore in front of San Marcos in Venice. This is a self-portrait of Veronese 1 year earlier, the commission in 1561. And this is the refectory where the canvas was hung until the Napoleon's troops brought to France in 18, I don't remember, 92, I don't remember exactly. It was hung at 2 meters from the floor, like a trompe-l'oeil. The only direct testimony for all these avatars comes from one of the monks, editor, historian, and poet, Benedetto Guidi, who contemplated the works daily from the beginning. He bequeathed us a brief poem alluding to the Veronese canvas as 1000 dolci errori, 1000 sweet errors. He had assumed his vows at San Giorgio 14 years earlier, on March 21, 1551. He was a younger monk among the Benedictine authorities, to the viewer's right, who were the responsibles for the commission. He was 29 years old in 1562, and 32 when he wrote his poem 3 years later. It was our colleague Javier Alejandro Casillas who first identified Diego Ortiz 10 years before our meeting in 2017. Next to the Malaga Cathedral, he informed us about the probable identity of the unknown musician who whispered his diminutions in the left ear of Berenice. He also informed us his own unsuccessful attempts till that moment to convince any art specialist who properly considered his proposal, an enterprise that we undertook and completed, in our opinion, successfully, and that has generated by now more than 1,000 works devoted to these topics, 10 of them already published, 1 in press. I show you at the end. The engraving is also the only known portrait of one of the most important and famous European viola gambists at the moment of publication of the treatise, 10 years before the termination of the wedding. His facial features are quite unusual. So individually or in some combination they could be present in many other characters, it is unlikely they all appear together at time in 2 different famous viola gambists separated by 10 years. The engraving is from 1553 and the canvas is 1563. It is also unlikely that other specialized coeval musicians could coincide in so many traits. We think that the general shape and aspect of the face and hair of both portraits show a surprising similarity, which is supported by 12 specific features. 1. Shape of the hairstyle. 2. Hair type, short and curly. 3. Shape and density of the beard. 4. Shape of the receding hairline at the forehead. 5. Form of the hairline plus 1 wrinkle at the temple. 6. 3 longitudinal wrinkles in the forehead. 7. 3 wrinkles in the cornea of the eye. 8. Prolonged pocket below the eye. 9. General shape, contour, and size of the nose. 10. Shape of the alar and alar furrow of the nose. 11. Shape of the ear and its relative size. And 12. Proportions of facial traits and general overall appearance. The Missise's Liber Primus is dedicated to Don Pedro Afán de Rivera, who was officially designated Viceroy and successor of Pedro de Toledo after more than 6 years and 7 prelates and generals as interim viceroys. The book contains sacred polyphony in a compendium of 69 vocal pieces in 4, 5, 6, and 7 voices, and was published in Venice in 1565 by the printer Antonio Gardano, just over a year after the delivery of the Veronese canvas. In the dedication, the author identifies himself still in Naples and expresses his desire to write a book of masses, a work of which there is no information and which probably did not reach the printing. The title suggests that he planned a second part for this work, perhaps the book of masses. The identity of the Spanish musician has remained hidden until our first work in 2018, even without allusion in literary sources, where it has been repeatedly omitted. His portrait at the canvas had confused the scholars for 250 years. Saint Zanetti the Younger wrongly attributed his identity to Tintoretto, in turn omitting the mention of its true owner, the violinist. This is the portrait of Tintoretto which Zanetti the Younger made reference. We believe to have shown, however, that the original proposal of his relative Zanetti the Elder, who attributed it to the violinist, was the correct. Therefore, it necessarily came from a legend based on the real context of the canvas during its creation. His facial features, compared to his self-portrait at the age of 54, still exhibited today in the Sala Grande of the Scuola di San Rocco in Venezia, seem much more coherent with the character depicted on the canvas. This is this one. He is Tintoretto. Another one of Javier Alejano's findings is that the initial notation of the score behind Veronese's head, Ortiz's score, this one, could be reproducing the anonymous tenor of La Spagna, one of the main melodies used by Ortiz in his own treatise. The first 4 notes seem coincide with this term, except for the third one, located a lower tone. This circumstance would indicate a coincidence close to 70% between both designs, the tenor and au propos. The 4 signs that precede the notes indicate the bass clef in 4, the scope or register of the instrument, a flat on B tone, F major tonality, and the time signature respectively. According to Marco Boschini, the Venetian painting musicians identified themselves on the canvas by a gold ring in their left hand. The exception to this rule is Titian, who displayed a second ring on his right thumb, according to our model in memory of the missing master of the canvas under Ortiz's portrait, Giorgio da Castelfranco, also called Giorgione. The only character in the group who does not wear a ring is precisely Ortiz, who was not a painter. His left hand is the geometric center of a circle that encompasses all of them. We have also proposed that the literary inscription written in the scroll under Titian's hand, this one, yeah, is only coherent for Berenice's gaze direction, given the orientation of the spellings. We turn at your left, and this is the inscription we are referring to. This one, this one. This expression could be indicating both the origin of the egregious new guest and the name of one of the themes he chose to elaborate his famous treatise, the same one we are postulating for the score that Ortiz should look at. We believe that the description could be literally interpreted as Spania, as can still be observed on the current campus.